Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Okay, starting with the introduction prayers on page 1. Om Jnanatmirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Vishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavascha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Gunatam Vitantam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sadhana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dhinabandho Jagatpate Gopeshta Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tattakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishadham Sukhi Pranamami Hare Priya Vanchakalpatarubhascha Vasindubhyevacha Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. We are starting on chapter 14, text 17 today. Okay, here we go. Satvat sanjayate jnanam rajaso lovevacha pramadamoho tamaso bhavato jnanamevacha. Translation. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, grief develops. And from the mode of ignorance, foolishness, madness, and illusion develop.
Text 18. Udam gachanti sappasito mare tishanti rajasa jaganaya navriti adu gachanti namasha. Translation. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion move on the earthly planets, and those in the mode of ignorance go down to the hellish worlds.
Text 90. Nanyam gurevyo kartaram yada drashtaanu pashyati gurevyaschā param veti madhvaram sodhigacchati. Translation. When you see that there is nothing beyond these modes of nature in all activities, and that the Supreme Lord is transcendental to all these modes, then you can know my spiritual nature.
Text 20. Gunaitana aditete devi deha samudbhava janma mrityu jara dukhe vimukturvritamashmite. Translation. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life.
Text 21, translation and prayer by Stavaka Sukati Bhava Swami Prabhupada. Arjuna Vacha, Kirvangai Strinkanami Tam Tito Bhagati Guru, Kimachar Katam Chai Tam Stitam Gunam Vartate. Translation. Arjuna inquired, "But my dear Lord, by what symptoms is one known? Who is transcendental to those modes? What is behavior? And how does he transcend modes of nature?"
Text 22 to 25. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Prakasham cha pravrittim cha moham eva cha pandava na dveshti sampravrittani na nivrittani kamshiti udasinavad asino kunaryo na vichalyate kunavartanta ityeva yovatishtanti ningate samadukha sukha swastha samarushtasma kanchana tuya priya priya buddhiras tuya nindapna samstuti manapamanyos tuyas tuya nidran pakshayo Sarvarambha parityagi kunatita sauchate. Translation. The Blessed Lord said, he who does not hate illumination, attachment, and delusion when they are present, nor longs for them when they disappear, who is seated like one unconcerned, being situated beyond these material reactions of the modes of nature, who remains firm, knowing that the modes alone are active, who regards alike pleasure and pain, and looks on a cloud, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is wise and holds praise and blame to be the same, who is unchanged in honor and dishonor, who treats friend and foe alike, who has abandoned all fruitive undertakings. Such a man is said to have transcended the modes of nature.
Text 26. Mamchayo Eyapicharina Bhakti Yogina Sivate Saguna Samatipyaitam Rama Bhuyaya Kalpate. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature, and thus comes to the level of Brahma.
Text 27. Brahmano hi pratishtaham amrutasya vyayasya cha sasvatasya cha dharmasya sukasya kantikasya cha. Translation. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness, and which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal.
Chapter 15, Text 1. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Urdhvam Dharmadharshakam Ashvatam Brahmarahyayam Chandasi Yasya Varnani Yastam Veda Savedave. Translation. The blessed Lord said, there is a banyan tree which has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are cut very flames. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas.
Chapter 15, text 2. Adashprabhan Prastastika Saka Ganaprabhan Prasayatavarban Adhasvilam Vasantatavi Kamanabani Nishaloke. Translation. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. The twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society.
Returning to text 27 of chapter 14, or text 17, I'm sorry. Text 17 of chapter 14. Translation. From the mode of goodness, real knowledge develops. From the mode of passion, grief develops. From the mode of ignorance, foolishness, madness, and illusion develop. Purport. Since the present civilization is not very congenial to the living entities, Krishna consciousness is recommended. Through Krishna consciousness, society will develop the mode of goodness. When the mode of goodness is developed, people will see things as they are. In the mode of ignorance, people are just like animals, you cannot see things clearly. In the mode of ignorance, for example, they do not see that by killing one animal, they are taking a chance of being killed by the same animal in the next life. Because people have no education and actual knowledge, they become irresponsible. To stop this irresponsibility, education for developing the mode of goodness of the people in general must be there. When they are actually educated in the mode of goodness, they will become sober and full knowledge of things as they are. Then people will be happy and prosperous. Even if the majority of the people aren't happy and prosperous, if a certain percentage of the population develops Krishna consciousness and becomes situated in the mode of goodness, then there is the possibility for peace and prosperity all over the world. Otherwise, if the world is devoted to modes of passion and ignorance, there can be no peace or prosperity. In the mode of passion and ignorance, in the mode of passion, people become greedy, and their hankering for sense enjoyment has no limit. One can see that even if one has enough money and adequate arrangement for his sense gratification, there is neither happiness nor peace of mind. That is not possible, because one is situated in the mode of passion. If one wants happiness at all, his money will not help him. He has to elevate himself to the mode of goodness by practicing Krishna consciousness. One engaged in the mode of passion is not only mentally unhappy, but his profession and occupation are also very troublesome. He has to devise so many plans and schemes to acquire enough money to maintain his status quo. This is all miserable. In the mode of ignorance, people become mad, being distressed by their circumstances. They take shelter of intoxication, and thus they sink further into ignorance. Their future in life is very dark.
Text 18, translation. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upward to the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those in the mode of ignorance go down into the hellish worlds. Purport. In this verse, the results of actions in the three modes of nature are more explicitly set forth. There is an upper planetary system consisting of the heavenly planets, where everyone is highly elevated, according to the degree of development in the mode of goodness. Living entity can be transferred to various planets in the system. The highest planet is Satyaloka or Brahmaloka, where the prime person of the universe is Lord Brahma resides. We have seen already that we can hardly calculate the wondrous condition of life in Brahmaloka, but the highest condition of life, the mode of goodness, can bring us to this. The mode of passion is mixed. It is in the middle between the mode of goodness and ignorance. The person is not always pure, but even if we should be purely in the mode of passion, he will simply remain on this earth as a king or a rich man. But because there are mixtures, one can also go down. People on this earth, in the modes of passion or ignorance, cannot forcefully approach the higher planets by machine. In the modes of passion, there is also the chance of becoming mad in the next life. The lowest quality in the mode of ignorance is described here as the bottom mode. The result of developing ignorance is very, very risky. It is the lowest quality of material nature. Beneath the human level, there are 8 million species of life: birds, beasts, reptiles, trees, etc. And according to the development of the mode of ignorance, people are brought down to these bottom conditions. The word tamasha is very significant here. Tamasha indicates those who stay continually in the mode of ignorance without rising to a higher mode. Their future is very dark. There is an opportunity for men in the modes of ignorance and passion to be elevated to the mode of goodness, and that system is called Krishna consciousness. The one who does not take advantage of this opportunity certainly will continue into the lower modes.
Text 19, translation. When you see that there is nothing beyond these modes of nature and all activities, and that the Supreme Lord is transcendental to all these modes, then you can know my spiritual nature properly. One can transcend all the activities of the modes of material nature simply by understanding them properly, by learning from the proper source. The real spiritual master is Krishna, and he is imparting this spiritual knowledge to Arjuna. Similarly, it is from those who are fully in Krishna consciousness that one has to learn this science of activities in terms of the modes of nature. Otherwise, one's life will be misdirected. By the instruction of a bona fide spiritual master, a living entity can know of his spiritual condition, his material body, his senses, how he is entrapped, and how he is under the spell of the material modes of nature. He is helpless, being in the grip of these modes, but when he can see his real position, then he can attain to the transcendental platform, having the scope for spiritual life. Actually, the living entity is not the performer of different activities. He is forced to act because he is situated in a particular type of body, conducted by some particular mode of material nature. Unless one has the help of spiritual authority, he cannot understand in what position he is actually situated. With the association of a bona fide spiritual master, he can see his real position, and by such an understanding, he can become fixed in full Krishna consciousness. A man in Krishna consciousness is not controlled by the spell of the material modes of nature. It has already been stated in the 7th chapter that one who has surrendered to Krishna is relieved from the activities of material nature. Therefore, for one who is able to see things as they are, the influence of material nature gradually ceases.
Text 20, translation. When the embodied being is able to transcend these three modes, he can become free from birth, death, old age, and their distresses, and can enjoy nectar even in this life. Purport. How one can stay in the transcendental position even in this body in full Krishna consciousness is explained in these words. The Sanskrit word dehi means embodied. Although one is within this material body, by his advancement in spiritual knowledge, he can free from the influence of the modes of nature. He can enjoy the happiness of spiritual life even in this body, because after leaving this body, he is suddenly going to the spiritual sky. But even in this body, he can enjoy spiritual happiness. In other words, devotional service in Krishna consciousness is a sign of liberation from this material entanglement, and this will be explained in the 18th chapter. When one is freed from the influence of the modes of material nature, he enters into devotional service.
Text number 21. Arju Vacha Karliga Ishtan Kananalitam Tito Bhavadiprabho Kimachak Tamachak Trinkanam Nivartate. Translation and purport. Arjuna inquired, O my dear Lord, by what symptoms is one known who is transcendental to those modes? What is his behavior, and how does he transcend the modes of nature? Purport. In this verse, Arjuna's questions are very appropriate. He wants to know the symptoms of a person who has already transcended material modes. He first inquires for the symptoms of such a transcendental person. How can one understand that he has already transcended the influence of the modes of material nature? The second question asks how he lives and what his activities are. Are they regulated or non-regulated? Then Arjuna inquires of the means by which he can attain the transcendental nature. This is very important. Unless one knows the direct means by which one can be situated always transcendentally, there is no possibility of showing the symptoms. So all these questions put by Arjuna are very important, and the Lord answers them.
Text 22 through 25. The Blessed Lord said, "He who does not hate illumination, attachment, delusion when they are present, nor longs for them when they disappear, who is seated like one unconcerned, being situated beyond these material reactions of the modes of nature, who remains firm, knowing that the modes alone are active, who regards alike pleasure and pain, and looks on a clod, a stone, and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is wise and holds praise and blame to be the same, who is unchanged in honor and dishonor, who treats friend and foe alike, who is in all food of undertakings. Such a man is said to have transcended the modes of nature." Purport. Arjuna submitted the 3 different questions, and the Lord answered them one after another. In these verses, Krishna first indicates that a person transcendentally situated who neither envies anyone nor hankers for anything, and the living entity stays in this material world embodied by the material body. It is to be understood that he is under the control of one of the 3 modes of material nature. Jai Shri Krishna Bhagavan. When he is actually out of the body, then he is out of the clutches of the material modes of nature. But as long as he is not out of the material body, he should be neutral. He should engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord, so that his identity with the material body will automatically be forgotten. When one is conscious of the material body, he acts only for sense gratification. But when one transfers the consciousness to Krishna, sense gratification automatically stops. One does not need this material body, and he does not need to accept the dictations of the material body. The qualities of the material modes in the body will act. But as spirit soul, the self is aloof from such activities. How does he become aloof? He does not desire to enjoy the body, nor does he desire to get out of it. Thus transcendently situated, the devotee becomes automatically free. He need not try to become free from the influence of the modes of material nature. The next question concerns the dealings of the transcendently situated person. The materially situated person is affected by so-called honor and dishonor offered to the body. But the transcendently situated person is not affected by such false honor and dishonor. He performs his duty in Krishna consciousness and does not mind whether a man honors or dishonors him. He accepts things that are favorable for his duty in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, he has no necessity of anything material, either stone or gold. He takes everyone as his dear friend who helps him in his execution of Krishna consciousness, and he does not hate his so-called enemy. He is equally disposed and sees everything on an equal level, because he knows perfectly well that he has nothing to do with material existence. Social and political issues do not affect him because he knows the situation of temporary upheavals and disturbances. He does not attempt anything for his own sake. He can attempt anything for Krishna, but for his personal self he does not attain anything. But by such behavior one becomes actually transcendently situated.
Text 26. One who engages in full devotional service, who does not fall down in any circumstance, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. Purport. This verse is a reply to Arjuna's 3rd question. What is the means of attaining to the transcendental position? As explained before, the material world is acting under the spell of the modes of material nature. One should not be disturbed by the activities in such activities. He may transfer his consciousness to Krishna activities. Krishna activities are known as Bhakti Yoga, always acting for Krishna. This includes not only Krishna, but his different plenary expansions, such as Rama and Narayana. He has innumerable expansions. One who is engaged in the service of any of the forms of Krishna or of his plenary expansion is considered to be transcendently situated. One should also note that all the forms of Krishna are fully transcendental, blissful, full of knowledge, and eternal. Such personalities of Godhead are omnipotent, omniscient, and they possess all transcendental qualities. Such one engages himself in the service of Krishna or his plenary expansions with unfailing determination. Although these modes of material nature are very difficult to overcome, he can overcome them easily. This is already explained in the 7th chapter. One who surrenders unto Krishna at once surmounts the influence of the modes of material nature. To be in Krishna consciousness or in devotional service means to acquire the quality of Krishna. The Lord says that his nature is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge, and living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme, as gold particles are part of the gold mine. Thus, living entity's spiritual position is good as gold, as good as Krishna in quality. The difference in individuality continues, otherwise, there is no question of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga means that the Lord is there. The devotee is there, and the activity of exchange of love between the Lord and the devotee is there. Therefore, the individuality of two persons is present in the Supreme Personality Godhead and the individual person. Otherwise, there is no meaning to Bhakti Yoga. If one is not situated in the same transcendental position with the Lord, one cannot serve the Supreme Lord. To be a personal assistant to a king, one must acquire the qualifications. Thus, the qualification to become a Brahman or free from all material contamination. It is said in the Vedic literature, one can attain the Supreme Brahman by becoming a Brahman. This means that only one must qualitatively become one with Brahman by attaining a Brahman. One does not lose his eternal Brahman identity or individual soul.
Text 27. And I am the basis, translation. And I am the basis of the impersonal Brahman, which is the constitutional position of ultimate happiness, and which is immortal, imperishable, and eternal. Forward. The constitution of Brahman is immortality, imperishability, eternity, and happiness. Brahman is the beginning of transcendental realization. Paramatma, the Super Soul, is the second stage in transcendental realization, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate realization of the absolute truth. Therefore, both Paramatma and the impersonal Brahman are within the Supreme Person. It is explained in the 7th chapter that material nature is the manifestation of the inferior energy of the Supreme Lord. The Lord impregnates the inferior material nature with the fragments of the superior nature, and that is the spiritual touch in the material nature. When a living entity conditioned by this material nature begins the cultivation of spiritual knowledge, he elevates himself from the position of material existence and gradually rises up to the Brahman conception of the Supreme. This attainment of the Brahman conception of life is the first stage in self-realization. At this stage, the Brahman realized person is transcendental to the material position, but he is not actually perfect in Brahman realization. If he wants, he can continue to stay in the Brahman position and then gradually raise up to Paramatma realization and then to the realization of the Supreme Personality of God. There are many examples of this in Vedic literature. The 4 Kumaras were situated first in the impersonal Brahman conception of truth, but then they gradually rose to the platform of devotional service. One who cannot elevate himself beyond the impersonal conception of Brahman runs the risk of falling down. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that although a person may rise to the stage of impersonal Brahman without going further, with no information of the Supreme Person, his intelligence is not perfectly clear. Therefore, in spite of being raised to the Brahman platform, there is a chance of falling down if one is not engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. In the Vedic language, it is also said Raso Vaisaha, Rasam He Evayam Labdavanandi Bhavati. When one understands the personality of God, the reservoir of pleasure, Krishna, he actually becomes transcendently blissful. The Supreme Lord is full in six opulences, and when a devotee approaches him, there is an exchange of these six opulences. The servant of the king enjoys on an almost equal level with the king. And so, eternal happiness, imperishable happiness, eternal life accompany devotional service. Therefore, realization of Brahman or eternity or imperishability is included in devotional service. This is already possessed by a person who is engaged in the devotional service. The living entity, although Brahman by nature, has the desire to lord it over the material world, and due to this he falls down. In his constitutional position, a living entity is above the three modes of material nature, but association with material nature entangles him in the different modes of material nature. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. Due to the association of these three modes, his desire to dominate the material world is there. By engagement in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, he is immediately situated in the transcendental position, and his unlawful desire to control material nature is removed. Therefore, the process of devotional service, beginning with hearing, chanting, remembering the prescribed 9 methods for realizing devotional service, should be practiced in the association of devotees. Gradually, by such association, by the influence of spiritual master, one's material desire to dominate is removed, and one who becomes firmly situated in the Lord's transcendental loving service. This method is prescribed from the 22nd to the last verse of this chapter. Devotional service to the Lord is very simple. One should always engage in the service of the Lord, should eat the remnants of footsteps offered to the deity, smell the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, see the places where the Lord had his transcendental pastimes, read of the different activities of the Lord, his reciprocation of love with his devotees, chant always the transcendental vibration, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and observe the fasting days commemorating the appearances and disappearance of the Lord and his devotees. By following such a process, one becomes completely detached from all material activities. One who can thus situate himself in the Brahma Jyoti is equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in quality. Thus ends the purport to the 14th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the matter of the three modes of material nature.
Chapter 15, Text 1, Translation. The blessed Lord said, there is a banyan tree which has its roots upward and its branches down, and whose leaves are the Vedic hymns. One who knows this tree is the knower of the Vedas. Purport. After the discussion of the importance of Bhakti Yoga, one may question, what about the Vedas? It is explained in this chapter that the purpose of Vedic study is to understand Krishna. Therefore, one who is in Krishna consciousness, who is engaged in devotional service, already knows the Vedas. The entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. For one who is engaged in fruitive activities, there is no end to the banyan tree. He wanders from one branch to another and to another. The tree of this material world has no end, and for one who is attached to this tree, there is no possibility of liberation. The Vedic hymns meant for elevating oneself are called the leaves of this tree. This tree's roots grow upward because they begin from where Brahma is located, the topmost planet of this universe. If one can understand this indestructible tree of illusion, then one can get out of it. This process of extrication should be understood. In the previous chapters, it has been explained that there are many processes by which to get out of the material entanglement. And up to the 13th chapter, we have seen that devotional service to the Supreme Lord is the best way. Now, the basic principle of devotional service is detachment from material activities and attachment to the transcendental service of the Lord. The process of breaking attachment to the material world is discussed in the beginning of this chapter. The root of this material existence grows upward. This means that it begins from the total material substance, from the topmost planet of the universe. From there, the whole universe is expanded, with so many branches representing the various planetary systems. The fruits represent the fruits of the results of the living entities' activities, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. Now, there is no ready experience in this world of a tree situated with its branches down and its roots upward. But there is such a thing. That tree can be found beside a reservoir of water. When you see that the trees from the bank reflect upon the water with their branches down and the roots up, in other words, the tree of the material world is only a reflection of the real tree of the spiritual world. This reflection of the spiritual world is situated on desire, just as a tree's reflection is situated on water. The desire is the cause of the things being situated in this reflected material life. One who wants to get out of this material existence must know this tree thoroughly through analytical study. Then he can cut off his relationship with it. This tree, being the reflection of the real tree, is an exact replica. Everything is there in the spiritual world. The impersonalists take Brahma to be the root of this material tree. And from the root, according to the Sankhya philosophy, come Prakriti, Purusha, and then the three gunas, and then the 5 gross elements, Pancha Mahabhuta, and then the 10 senses, Dashendriya, mind, etc. In this way, they divide up the whole material world. If Brahma is the center of all manifestations, then this material world is the manifestation of the center by 180 degrees. And the other 180 degrees constitute the spiritual world. The material world is perverted reflection. So the spiritual world must have the same variegativeness, but in reality. The Prakriti is the external energy of the Supreme Lord, and the Purusha is the Supreme Lord himself, and that is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Since this manifestation is material, it is temporary. The reflection is temporary, for it is sometimes seen and sometimes not seen. But the origin from whence the reflection is reflected is eternal. The material reflection of the real tree has to be cut off. When it is said that a person knows the Vedas, it is assumed that he knows how to cut off attachment to this material world. If one knows that process, he actually knows the Vedas. One who is attracted by the ritualistic formulas of the Vedas is attracted by the beautiful green leaves of the tree. He does not exactly know the purpose of the Vedas. The purpose of the Vedas, as disclosed by the personality of God himself, is to cut down this reflected tree and attain the real tree of the spiritual world.
Do any Vaishnavas have any comments or questions so far? We just finished chapter 14, Three Laws of Material Nature. In the first sloka, Krishna clearly says, Sri Bhagavani Vaksha Paramgoya Vakshami Jnanam Jnanamutamam Yajgatvam Yasarve Pradimsidam Hitokataha. The Blessed Lord said, again I shall declare to you the supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all the sages have attained to supreme perfection. And Krishna further says, Dam Jnana Pasvatya Namasadha Namakataha Sarge Bhina Vajayate Balina Vatanti Cha. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to this transcendental nature, which is like my own nature. Thus established, one is not born at the time of creation, nor destroyed at the time of dissolution. So this Mayaka, how valuable this knowledge is. One can get free from all problems and attain the love of God. Anyone have any comments or questions?
I don't have a comment or a question. Can I read the next text? Text 2 of chapter 15. The branches of this tree extend downward and upward, nourished by the three modes of material nature. Twigs are the objects of the senses. This tree also has roots going down, and these are bound to the fruitive actions of human society. Purport. The description of the banyan tree is further explained here. Its branches are spread in all directions. In the lower parts, there are variegated manifestations of living entities, such as human beings, animals, horses, cows, dogs, cats, etc. These are situated on the lower parts of the branches, whereas on the upper parts of it are higher forms of living entities, the demigods, Pandaros, fairies, and many other higher species of life. As a tree is nourished by water, so this tree is nourished by the three modes of material nature. Sometimes we find that the tract of land is barren for want of sufficient water, and sometimes the tract is very green. Similarly, where the modes of material nature are proportionally greater in quantity, the different species of life are manifested in that proportion. I want to make a comment on this one right here. This sentence is really nice. It's really interesting. It says, sometimes we find that the tract of land is barren for want of sufficient water, and sometimes the tract is very green. Similarly, where the modes of material nature are proportionally greater in quantity, the different species of life are manifested in that proportion. So, we can see that in big cities and there's a difference between living places. Like in big cities, there's a lot of modes happening, a lot of passion, ignorance, some goodness. But in the forest where not many people are living, the mode of goodness. Is that right, Bill? Yeah. Okay. So yeah, it says, financial. So basically, wherever there are more modes of material nature, there are more living entities living in that particular place. The twigs of the tree are considered to be the sense objects. By development of the different modes of nature, we develop different senses, and by the senses, we enjoy different varieties of sense objects. The source of the senses, the ears, the nose, eyes, etc., is considered to be the upper twigs, tuned to the enjoyment of different sense objects. The leaves are sound, form, touch, the sense objects. The roots, which are subsidiary, are the byproducts of different varieties of suffering and sense enjoyment. Those who develop attachment and aversion, the tendencies toward piety and impiety are considered to be the secondary roots, spreading in all directions. The real root from Brahmaloka and the other roots are in the human planetary systems. After one enjoys the results of virtuous activities in the upper planetary systems, he comes down to this earth and renews his karma or fruitive activities for promotion. This planet of human beings is considered the field of activities. Bhagavad Gita.
She's very complicated. It's going